Welcome to the deep dive. If you're maybe tired of financial advice that just tells you to, follow the herd, well, today we are digging into a playbook written specifically for you.
hmm
We're talking about the investment thinking of Peter Lynch, mostly drawing from his super influential guide, One Up on Wall Street.
Yeah, and look, we're not just talking about some minor tips here. Lynch is, well, he's a legend for a very good reason.
Definitely.
He ran the Fidelity Magellan Fund, and, over 13 years, he pulled off an average annual return of 29%. Just think about that.
29%. That kind of track record, it just demands you pay attention, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So our mission today is really to pull out the most useful insights, the real nuts and bolts that explain how an individual investor, someone without a fancy Wall Street setup, can not just compete, but actually maybe beat the pros.
And that's the really revolutionary part of Lynch's whole philosophy, isn't it? His core belief is that you, the individual, you already have an advantage built in.
An advantage over the professionals. How does that work?
Well, think about it. Professionals are often kind of bogged down by regulations, committee decisions, needing to stick with what everyone else is doing, the consensus.
Right, covering their bases.
Exactly. But you, the individual, you're free to use simple common sense, real-world observation to spot opportunities way before the big institutional money even notices.
Okay, let's unpack that. That advantage. Lynch called it the local edge, right?
That's the term, the local edge.
And this is where it gets kind of exciting, I think, because it means your everyday life, what you see around you, could actually be investment signals.
It's all about leveraging what you know best, your own world. So if you notice a product, could be anything, a new streaming app, some energy drink, a particular brand of sneakers becoming super popular in your area, or maybe among your friends, your colleagues. That observation, that's often way faster than some analyst sitting in an office tower reading old financial reports.
Okay, but let me push back a little here. It sounds good. I saw a crowded coffee shop. But how do you actually connect that observation to a specific stock you can buy? I think that's where a lot of people get stuck.
Right, and that's where let's say, the discipline kicks in. Your observation, that's just the starting point, the signal.
Okay.
So that coffee shop is packed, great. Is it a franchise? Is it part of a bigger chain? Are they using some specific, maybe new payment app that seems way better than others?
Looking beyond the obvious.
Exactly. Or maybe they're all serving, I don't know, oat milk from one particular supplier that happens to be a public company. Lynch teaches you to look past the surface product, investigate the supply chain, the tech behind it, maybe even the real estate involved.
So that's how invest in what you know really works. It's not just the final product.
It's using your expertise or observations in one area to guide your research somewhere else. You start with what you know.
Which leads us straight to Lynch's, number one rule.
Yeah.
Know what you own and know why you own it.
Crucial.
He basically said, if you can't explain what the company does simply, maybe to a 10-year-old, you probably haven't done enough homework.
Yeah, it connects that daily observation to the next concrete steps. But, okay, once you've found an interesting company, you can't just treat it like every other stock out there. You need a kind of roadmap.
And that roadmap is Lynch's really brilliant system for categorizing stocks.
Yeah.
He saw that putting a company into the right bucket basically tells you everything, right?
Everything. How long you might hold it, what kind of return you should realistically expect, and importantly, what kind of homework you actually need to do.
It makes sense. Different companies, different approaches.
Exactly right. He broke them down into 6 distinct types. And if you mess this up, if you try to use the strategy for a slow-growing utility on a fast-growing tech startup, you're probably going to be disappointed.
Or worse.
Or worse. Understanding these types really helps manage your expectations and your actions.
Okay, let's maybe touch on the categories. Perhaps starting with the ones that individual investors might need to be most careful with. Maybe the slow growers and the cyclicals.
Good place to start. So, slow growers. These are usually mature companies, think utilities, maybe some big infrastructure firms. They're generally safe, pretty reliable payers.
But not exciting growth-wise.
Not at all. Minimal growth potential, usually. The strategy Lynch suggests is simple. You're really only buying them for the dividend yield. They can anchor a portfolio, maybe, but they're not where you look for big gains.
And cyclicals?
Cyclicals are tricky, very tricky. Think airlines, car manufacturers, maybe mining companies. Their profits swing wildly up and down with the overall economy.
Right. Good times, they boom. bad times.
Exactly. And that's what makes them dangerous for the average person relying on that local edge. Why do you think that is?
Well, I guess most people feel good and buy them when the economy is already booming, which is probably when the stock price is near its peak.
Precisely. Lynch warned about this constantly. You need almost expert timing with cyclicals. You ideally want to buy them when the economy looks terrible and everyone hates them, and then sell before things inevitably slow down again. It demands really good timing, maybe even economic forecasting. It's tough.
Okay, so maybe not the first place for a beginner to look. Let's shift to the categories that maybe align better with that local edge idea, the potential big winners, fast growers.
Ah, yes. Fast growers, these are the exciting ones. Small, often young companies expanding rapidly. Think about the early days of Apple or Starbucks or companies like that.
The ones everyone starts talking
All
about.
right. If you spot one of these early, using your observations, you have the potential for those huge returns, Lynch, called 10-bagger stocks that go up 10 times or more.
Wow.
Now, they are definitely risky. Many fast growers fail or stumble badly. But this is where that individual investor's early observation, that local edge, can be incredibly powerful. You might see it before Wall Street does.
And then you have the more stable players, the stalwarts.
The stalwarts, yeah. These are the big, established, reliable companies. Your Procter & Gamble's, Coca-Cola's, companies like that. Solid, profitable.
What kind of returns are we talking about here?
They offer, pretty decent, moderate gains. Lynch suggested maybe 30% to 50% over a reasonable time frame. Not explosive like fast growers, but they add stability. They help balance out the portfolio, maybe protect you a bit in downturns.
Okay, that makes sense. And the last two categories sound like they need more serious digging. Turnarounds and asset plays.
Definitely more involved. Turnarounds are companies that have been struggling, maybe near bankruptcy, but are trying to recover.
High risk, high reward territory.
Very much so. You need to analyze the new management, maybe debt restructuring plans, shifts in the industry. They can double your money, Lynch said, or they can go bust completely.
And asset plays.
Asset plays are even more specialized. These are companies that are undervalued because the market hasn't recognized the true worth of something they own. Could be hidden real estate, valuable patents, maybe a pile of cash.
So you really have to dig into the balance sheet there.
Oh, yeah. Deep research required. You're trying to find value that the professional analysts have somehow missed. Requires a lot of work.
Okay, this categorization framework is super helpful because it tells you, okay, I think I've spotted a fast grower or maybe a turnaround based on what I see.
Yeah.
But that's just step one, isn't it? You still have to do the homework.
Absolutely crucial. Observation gets you interested, gives you a lead, but conviction, that has to come from the numbers, from the research.
Right.
Lynch was adamant about this. Once you have an idea, you have to analyze the fundamentals. Is the company actually profitable? How much debt does it have? Is that debt manageable? Is the growth real and sustainable? Who's the competition? What are they doing?
Basic business questions, really.
Exactly. And many new investors, they might look at, say, the price-to-earnings ratio, the PE. But Lynch pointed out a big flaw there, especially for fast growers.
What's the issue with PE?
Well, a company growing its earnings at 30% a year should have a much higher PE ratio than a slow grower chugging along at 3%, right?
Yeah.
The PE alone doesn't tell you if the price is justified relative to its growth. It's kind of useless in isolation for these fast movers.
Okay, so it needed context?
It needed context, and that's why he gave us his, I think, brilliant valuation shortcut, the PEG ratio.
PEG. Okay, let's break that down clearly.
Super simple concept, actually. The PEG ratio is just the PE ratio divided by the company's annual earnings growth rate.
PE divided by growth rate.
Got it. It puts the price, PE, in perspective against the potential growth. And Lynch offered a very practical rule of thumb.
Which is?
If the PEG ratio is below 1, the stock is probably reasonably priced or even undervalued, assuming you believe that growth rate is sustainable. If the PEG is, say, 2, 3, it might be expensive.
So below 1 is kind of the target zone.
Generally, yes. It's a quick check. Right. Is the growth I'm seeing reflected fairly in the price?
That tool feels like it pulls the whole process together. Let's use an example. Say you notice everyone's starting to use Zomato for food delivery, or maybe buying cosmetics from Nika online. You see them everywhere.
Okay, real-world observation. Potential fast grower identified.
Right. So step one, check the fundamentals. Are they making money or on a clear path to it? How's the debt? Management seem competent.
Good. Basic checks done. Story seems intact.
Then you look at that PEG ratio. You find their growth rate, find their PE, do the division, and if it comes out at, say, 0.7 or 0.8,
Then, according to Lynch, you might have found something interesting and potentially undervalued opportunity, spotted early through your own eyes and experience before it's all over the news.
That's a really empowering process. From just seeing something to having a concrete valuation check.
It is. But, and this is a big but, all that great analysis, the categories, the PEG ratio, it can all go to waste if the investor doesn't get the last part right.
Which
The psychology, managing your own emotions. Because Lynch was really stern about one thing in particular.
What was that?
Ignore the noise. Ignore the Wall Street gurus predicting crashes every 6 months. Ignore the hot tips from your neighbor, and absolutely resist the urge to time the market.
Easier said than done sometimes.
No, definitely. He knew that. He said the real enemy of the individual investor isn't picking a bad stock now and then. It's letting fear or greed make you do dumb things with the good stocks you own, getting scared out at the bottom.
He had that quote, right? The key to making money in stocks is not to get scared out of them.
That's the one. Powerful reminder.
So, practically speaking, when you see a stock you bought, maybe based on solid research, drop hard in a market correction, what's the Lynchian way to handle that fear, that impulse to just sell and stop the pain? Is it just like blindly trusting the PEG ratio you calculated?
Not blind trust, no. It's about going back to your original conviction, the homework you did. When the price drops, Lynch would say, revisit your checklist. Has the company's story fundamentally changed for the worse? Did their debt suddenly become a huge problem? Did the competition just launch something revolutionary that kills their product? Is management doing something foolish?
So, reevaluate the business itself.
Exactly. If the answers are no, if the business fundamentals are still solid, then the stock isn't worse, it's just cheaper. The market's being emotional. Your job is to stay rational and maybe even buy more if you can.
That reframes it completely. It's an opportunity, not just a loss.
Potentially, yes. And this ties into why he emphasized holding stocks long enough to become 10-baggers.
Right, the stocks that go up 10 times.
Yeah. He argued that most of the truly massive gains come from holding great companies for years, letting them compound. But most people, they get nervous or impatient, they sell after a 20% or 30% gain.
And miss the really big move later on.
They miss the exponential growth that only time in the market can provide. Which brings us back to market timing.
The folly of trying to predict the peaks and troughs.
Complete folly. Nobody can do it consistently. Not even Peter Lynch claimed he could. If you waste your energy trying to guess the next market dip, you're almost guaranteed to miss some of the best upswings. It just doesn't work long term.
Didn't he have a quote about that too? Something about losing more money anticipating corrections.
Yes. Far more money has been lost by investors trying to anticipate corrections than lost in the corrections themselves. That sums it up perfectly.
It's such a powerful lesson. Focus on time in the market, finding good companies, not timing the market.
It actually takes a lot of pressure off, doesn't it? Your job isn't to be an economist predicting recessions. Your job is to find good businesses, buy them at reasonable prices, and then, well, be patient. Let the company do the hard work over the years.
Okay, so let's try and wrap up this deep dive. If we were to boil down Lynch's philosophy into the most actionable advice for someone listening, what are the key habits they need to build?
Right, the practical takeaways. First, consistently use your eyes and ears. Look around you every day for potential ideas. Keep a running list, maybe.
Okay, be observant.
Second, when you find an idea, immediately try to categorize it using those 6 types. That sets your strategy. Is it a fast grower? A stalwart? A cyclical?
Know what kind of beast you're dealing with.
Third, always do the homework. Check the fundamentals, profits, debt, competition, and definitely use that PEG ratio as a valuation check, especially for growers. Don't overpay.
Research is non-negotiable.
Fourth, consider buying gradually. Dollar cost averaging. Don't bet the farm all at once. And maybe most importantly, fifth, hold for the long term, assuming the story stays intact. Stay calm during dips. Review your thesis, your fundamentals, periodically, maybe once or twice a year, not every day.
It sounds so sensible. Lynch's whole approach really feels like it democratizes investing, doesn't it?
It really does. He basically proves you don't need some secret Wall Street algorithm or insider info. What you need is to be more observant, maybe more curious, and definitely more patient than everybody else.
Use your eyes, ears, and common sense to find great investments before the professionals do.
That's the Lynch motto in a nutshell.
A brilliant philosophy, really. Okay, before we wrap up, here's a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on this week. Building directly on that idea of the local edge. If your daily observations give you an advantage, What's one recent product or service? Maybe something you've seen friends, family, colleagues starting to use constantly that seems to have shifted from being just like a novelty item to something almost indispensable in just the last, say, 6 months or a year.
Interesting question.
Think about it locally. Try to categorize what kind of company it might be using Lynch's framework, and perhaps you've just found the starting point for your next potential fast grower research project.
Great food for thought. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Let's see you next time on The Deep Dive.